Greetings, friends, enemies, and maybe if you play your cards right, something a little more. Transformers, like all toys, are designed to be played with, but there is a finite amount of times they can go through the stresses of transformation before something's gonna break. Nothing lasts forever after all. So this video is a sort of send-off to a Transformer that, since I foolishly got rid of all the ones I had as a kid, is one that I've probably had for about the longest, and he's probably not got many transformations left in him.
Classic Starscream is a deluxe class figure from 2006. I wasn't collecting Transformers back then, but I still picked him up since I just like Starscream and never had a toy of him, so decided what the hell. That logic is also why I bought the first Masterpiece Optimus around the same time, which was certainly the kind of decision one makes when you aren't paying for your own rent yet. This lad is a nice updated version of the G1 design, but with engineering that was far more advanced than the 80s toy. Granted, it's still very basic compared to the wizardry they manage on modern deluxes, but it has a certain charm. Articulation-wise, there's a lot of things limiting what you can do with him. With his giant null rays attached, it's hard to find arm positions that don't clash with the wings. The legs are relatively well articulated, but are restricted from going at too extreme an angle by other parts of the robot. And despite there being no waist swivel, the head can look from side to side a little, although I'll admit it took an embarrassing amount of years to realise he could do that. All these things restrict what you can get out of him, but he's 16 years old, leave him alone. If you do want a little more movement out the arms, then you can remove the null rays and either strap them to his wings, or have him hold them in his hands, which just looks very wrong. And for those that don't know why those things are so big on this figure, well, it's because they fire missiles, which is always fun. And since they're on 5mm pegs, you can mix and match his weapons with modern figures if you like. And speaking of toy gimmicks, as he's a classics figure, he does have a good old-fashioned rub sign.
Oh, he's a Decepticon. Fancy that. So as a toy, he's very of the time, but I was happy to have this nice updated version of the character on my shelf for all these years, presumably plotting my downfall. But then we approach the tricky subject of transforming him in 2022.
So 90% of the transformation I actually really like. It's simple and everything clunks into place in a satisfying way, leaving you with a handsome jet mode. His nose cone is also made out of a more rubbery material, so a child will be less likely to stab themselves with it, which is understandable. A child hospitalised from blood loss is, after all, less likely to bug their parents to buy them more Transformers. But Wib, I hear you say, what about those tail fins? Why haven't you lowered them? Well, they're why I'm not confident fully transforming him anymore. They've gotten really stiff over the years, and there's a lot of visible cracking in the plastic. I really do not feel okay folding these down, and have basically accepted that if I want to keep the toy intact, then I probably shouldn't actually move them any more than is absolutely necessary. And maybe it's just my personal hang-up, but if I can't do the full transformation, then I feel like I might as well just leave him in robot mode. But for old time's sake, and since we're doing this video, let's fold them down one last time. Oh, that did not feel good. So yeah, this is a really nice jet mode, and tail fins aside, it holds together really solidly. It's remarkably clean too, like it's not even particularly obvious there's a robot in there from the underside, which is something you can't always count on in bots that turn into planes. My one complaint in this mode is something that's true for the robot mode too, which is that I wish the blue was a lighter shade to match the cartoon design, but to be fair, what particular shade of blue a Starscream toy uses is seemingly picked at random, so, you know, you get what you're given. Obviously the missiles can still be fired in this mode, and you can do this, which is always good for a giggle. Honestly, I still really like classic Starscream. Sure, he may be showing his age in some areas, but I think he wears it well, especially in that jet mode that still holds up. And if you want one yourself, well, they kept reusing the mold for years, so there's enough versions out there.
But this particular one will enter a well-earned retirement. And by that I mean, I'll put him back on the shelf.